Hello everyone, good morning and welcome along to the Liverpool Transfer Daily on the Blood Red channel. I'm Patrick Smith and I'm joined by Liverpool.com writer Ben Bokshak. Welcome along to all of you watching as well. Leave us your comments in the comment section below. We'll get to as many of them as we can. I'm sure there's plenty to talk about with Liverpool on the transfer market and of course the build-up to the Chelsea clash tomorrow. But Ben, we're going to start then with, believe it was someone on TalkSPORT, it was Alex Crook, saying that following the acquisition of Cody Gakpo, the Reds' business this month will be minimal. Basically saying they can't afford Ruben Neves. I mean, it's no real surprise, but to find out Liverpool basically can't afford a midfielder is something that may be strange to fans, but everyone in the industry and Jurgen Klopp himself seems to think that there's no chance it'll happen, and particularly for someone with the quality of Neves.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't a surprise. That's what really Klopp has been saying as well all along, that, if they don't necessarily have the funds, and I don't think it means that Liverpool don't actually have the funds. It means that they're probably saving up for something else, and that's why they can't afford Neves or a midfielder in January. And they're looking ahead to the summer, where it's probably no secret that Liverpool want to get Jude Bellingham in, or a premium midfielder in at least. And they're probably going to try and go for another midfielder as well. There's talks of Nunez from Wolves. So yeah, I think that's the real reason, really, is that the candidates that they want aren't necessarily available in January, and they'd rather save up that money now and then go strong in the summer and try to get those acquisitions in.
Yeah, we've seen the links though with the two Wolves midfielders you mentioned, Matheus Nunes and Ruben Neves, over before January. Even the Premier Link were tying both of those midfielders. Now we've seen the pair of them in pretty close proximity to matches within the space of 2 weeks, I believe it is, and we're playing them again soon. I'm pretty sure it's a really crazy schedule. What do you make of them both, though? Do you think they both have the quality necessary to play for Liverpool? I mean, we'll start with Neves because he's the one who's linked today. Do you think he could be, a decent starting midfielder for Liverpool?
I like him. I think he did really well against Liverpool. Actually, a good game. He's got the experience, but he's still only 25, which was surprising, I think, because he seems to have been around for ages. What I am concerned about is maybe his pace a little bit. I'm not sure if in a Jurgen Klopp system he'd suit that sort of intense, heavy pressing style. I think in terms of his pace, that's something the opposition can get around, and Liverpool needs someone solid at the moment who can offer a bit of stability in that midfield, and I'm not really sure if that is Neves. Nunez, though, on the other hand, I do like his intensity. I think he really caught my eye in his 2 cameo performances against Liverpool. And I think what I like about him as well is he's always looking to progress the ball. He's a very progressive midfielder, and I think that could help Liverpool a lot.
Yeah, definitely. He's so silky on the ball, isn't he? His press resistance as well is so impressive. The little turns out of space that, we saw Stefan Bajcetic getting the praise for it. So comes so naturally to Matheus Nunes. So hopefully he's one that we would like to see. But another midfielder that Liverpool have been linked with, Ben, is Moises Caicedo. Now, there are plenty of rumours going around yesterday that Chelsea had a £55 million bid turned down for him. I mean, we'll move on to a bit of Chelsea preview and their actions in the transfer market this January, to put it nicely. I mean, but Caicedo there, Brighton turning down 55 million. Do you think Liverpool, if they were to go in for him, let's say it probably require 70, 80 million, do you think that's too much for Caicedo, or would you, take that risk on him?
I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic player, but I just think right now we've only seen 30 games of him in the Premier League. I don't know if he's worth 75 million just yet. He might be in the future, and if you do pay that sort of money, you are gambling on his future and his potential. And I think at the moment Liverpool can't really afford to do that. They need a bit more proven quality in that midfield, I think. So yeah, I from Liverpool's perspective, I don't think it's worth it, but I do think Caicedo is a very talented player, and he may yet fulfill that 75 million sort of potential. But right now, I just think it's too much of a risk.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, it's extortion on him. Brighton are so shrewd in the transfer market that they're always going to get good business, especially when selling their players. But we had Josh Williams on the Analysing Anfield podcast yesterday. Viewers, make sure you go and check that out on the Blood Red channel and wherever you get your podcast from. It's always brilliant. But he was, talking on Chelsea's transfer policy this January and called it a scattergun approach. I mean, Liverpool fans have been obviously critical that they've not signed a midfielder. They've barely done any business this January, which is frustrating the fans. But do you think, Ben, that stability and sort of trusting your players, because there have been slight signs. I know it's not been probably been the worst few months under Jurgen Klopp so far at Liverpool, but would you rather have that stability than have this sort of scattergun approach Chelsea are going for? Because it seems they're going out and buying anyone and everyone who's available. Basically, it's a really strange sort of policy, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a risk as well. I mean, you saw Mudryk sign an 8-year contract, which is kind of unheard of, and that is a huge risk, a huge gamble on a player to sign that length of a contract. And I think, as we said, Liverpool can't really afford to make those kind of deals, and I think it could easily backfire for Chelsea as well if we're looking at this. The inflated squad, it's going to be difficult to get rid of players. And that could cause disharmony, and I think there is a lot of risk involved. As much as for Chelsea fans, I'm sure it's an exciting time right now. We all love new players, we all love to see new signings, but obviously it's not that simple and it's not that straightforward in reality.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that Chelsea transfer purchase you just touched on there. I mean, I think the Arthur Melo signing in the summer transfer market was kind of a similar move from Liverpool there to us. It's just quick, let's panic, let's get a midfielder. He's available, he's decent. And, 9 times out of 10 doesn't work out in situations like that, doesn't it? And it looks like with Arthur Melo, there's rumours of an exit. They have sort of been quashed by various outlets. But would you be looking to get him off the wage bill? Because obviously he's been injured, which isn't technically his fault. But do you think now's the time to cut the cord on Arthur Melo, or do you give him a chance just in case we need a midfielder?
Personally, I do like him as a midfielder, and I do kind of want to root for him. And I think Fabrizio Romano reported that he might be ready in a few weeks' time for Jurgen Klopp, which is really promising news. And I would give him a chance. He seemed really determined to make this deal happen. He seemed really keen to do well as well, and we barely saw any of him really when he got that injury, and it was a really unfortunate injury. But I do think he's someone who could offer a bit more stability to that Liverpool midfield. He's good in possession. He's got a bit of energy about him, and last season in Serie A as well, he did very well defensively. He posted some really good defensive numbers, and again, that's something Liverpool have lacked this season. So I think if he can sort of use that motivation and that willingness to prove himself and show that he's got enough and he is ready for that Liverpool midfield for Jurgen Klopp, then I do think it is still worth a punt, and he could be a boost for Liverpool.
Yeah, he's definitely a tidy player. I mean, no one moves from South America to Barcelona, and then Juve gets 30-odd Brazil caps. I think he's got, still relatively young. Clearly, he is a good player there. But the last question, Ben, I'm going to ask you. Got plenty of comments on it. Obviously, the Deloitte Football Money League was released yesterday. Liverpool moved up to 3rd place from 7th, over £700 million or euros. It might have been euros actually in revenue. Now the fans are obviously asking, if they're earning this much money in revenue, why are they not investing it in players? Because the other clubs around them, you've got PSG, City, Chelsea, United, Bayern, the list goes on. They all spend heavily in transfer markets. Why don't Liverpool, do you think?
I think because that sort of money doesn't really take into account how much Liverpool spend on wages, for example, and that sort of thing, and the investment into the facilities as well that FSG have made. So it can be a bit misleading in terms of how that money is calculated, and Liverpool do invest that, just maybe not necessarily in the transfer market. It's invested elsewhere, and I think people don't tend to notice that, but there has been a lot of investment outside of player recruitment, and I'm sure, like we said, Liverpool are in for Jude Bellingham, which means they must be confident that they can spend the sort of like almost 100 million figure that's being talked about for him. And I think they will spend. It's just about the right players and at the right time. And, there's a few logistical issues as well when it comes to this transfer market in terms of registering non-homegrown players. And that makes things difficult as well for Liverpool to invest right now in January. So I think, in principle, everyone would love to see a new signing, and 100% it would improve Liverpool. I think if you brought a midfielder in who's competent enough, but logistically speaking, it's a bit more complicated than that.
Yeah, it is really complex, and there's so many factors, especially in January, where clubs won't sell players, no matter how much you offer is often the case. But I understand the frustration. Obviously, you see Liverpool there, third in the revenue list. It does pose the question of where is all that money going potentially? But Ben, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you as well to all of you for watching along at home. Make sure, everyone, that you subscribe to the Blood Red YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts from, because we'll be bringing you Jurgen Klopp and Graham Potter's press conferences later. And then, of course, the Blood Red podcast is coming out later today. But thank you very much for joining myself, Patrick Smith, and Ben Bokshak. We'll catch you again next week on the Liverpool Transfer Daily.